Stardate, still in the 21st century. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny and sometimes smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. I am Lore. No. I am Data. Nope. I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. And with me on the view screen is
Clyde Haynes. Take a look. It's in a book, The Reading Rainbow.
Wow. And I am your attack tribble, Paul Satachin. Woo! Short, sweet, cute, and crazy.
We love an attack tribble on this pod right here. Tonight we will be reviewing and discussing the 6th episode of the final season of Star Trek Picard, entitled The Bounty, which was directed by Dan Liu and written by Christopher Monfetti. Just a couple of reminders before we dig into the main event here. Paul, can you tell folks how they can find us on the internet?
Sure. If you wanted to subscribe to our podcast, if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast, go onto Apple, YouTube, Spotify. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love our content, for just $2, you can join our Patreon per $2 per episode at patreon.com /Star Trek Pod. Man, that was like, I'm sorry, they're just four voices in my head. Like, they're not fully integrated yet. I apologize.
It's crowded in there.
It's crowded. That's right.
Clyde, can you tell people how they can interact with us if they are watching live on YouTube this evening?
If you're watching us live, then just send up a smoke signal. Last week it was carrier pigeons. This week, smoke signals. No, type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, and we'll take a look at your message, your question, your comment. And when we get to that special time of the show, you'll know what it is when we get there. And you want to let us know about your thoughts on this episode, just type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we'll take a look at your thoughts.
Do it. Thank you, Clyde, for making time for us this evening while you are on an away mission. We know it's a little bit late for you, so we'll hang out as long as you want to hang out. But I feel like it's most important for us to just get right on into it, and it is time for some hot breaks. It's time for some hot breaks. Clyde, what do you think of this episode?
Well, you know that I like this episode, and you know that I like this episode not because of what it came together to be in the end and for all of the reasons why somebody might like an episode. For me, it was the sum of its parts were amazing, right? Just the parts themselves. So yes, we could talk about all of the cool ships, and I mean a Starfleet museum where we get to go one by one and see the ships. And there was a part in there where it was like, oh, they took a moment to really look at Voyager. Myrriah's going to be so happy.
I sang along with the theme song.
Yeah, I know. I was like, but we couldn't get an Enterprise E in there. Like there's like, no Enterprise E. So, still loved it. Loved everything. But you had me at LaForge. And so I love that dynamic. You've got a father who is, he's got all this loyalty for his old captain, but he also is very much concerned about his daughter and trying to keep her safe. No, and all the little things along the way. I like this episode. I enjoyed it.
Paul, thoughts?
I look at this episode and I compare it to last week's episode. And I feel like last week's episode felt like I like both of them. But last week's episode felt like it was in and of itself something. Whereas I felt like in this episode, they threw a lot of stuff that like felt like fan service. And like, just let's smash it all in. Let's you're gonna smash in here, you're gonna like it. And you go, I do like this, but like I know what you're doing. So it felt like a little bit of a buffet in that way that I accept because I happen to like the elements of it, but like I do recognize that it's blatant manipulation.
So blatant. Paul, you didn't like the Genesis device? That didn't.
We're gonna go through the list, y'all. We're gonna go through the list.
I was gonna say I am your Genesis device warehouse policy. It was on the thing. Like it's all smashed in.
All smashed in. I think I agree with both of y'all. There was elements of this episode I really enjoyed. I loved the LaForge family a lot. I loved the LaForge sisters. I thought Jack and Seven's interactions this episode were lovely. Any scene with Worf in it was like top tier for me. But I think so far this felt like a little bit of a dip as far as like pushing, although it's wild. It to me felt a little light on some plot points. And which I feel like it was very spectacle. It was lots of it felt like we got a lot of fun things I enjoyed, but then the reveal at the end I was a little disappointed in. And we can talk about that when we get to that point. But but overall, I'm still on board. I'm still having a good time. I feel like the whole team up has now finally happened. We're at episode 6 and now everyone has made an appearance, although apparently there's still one more big reveal next week, according to the Ready Room.
Oh, wow.
That's so secretive. They couldn't even tell us who was guesting on the Ready Room next week because it would
Tasha
be
Yar.
a spoiler.
It's got to be Denise Crosby.
So we shall see who that is. But first, I wanted to jump in and talk about maybe one of my favorite things of this episode, which is Amanda Plummer as Vedic is still just like crushing it for me. Her villain speech at the top of this episode was like 10 out of 10 villain perfection. I loved it. What did y'all think of Vedic in this episode?
Taking the world by the Federation by storm, 10 out of 10 perfection.
10 out of 10. I loved it.
No, I thought it was great. I thought one of the things that was pretty, I mean, it really verged on like what you call it, villain monologue-y. But like she pulls it off.
Exactly. I was like, it can. Yeah, I was like, there's two versions of villains where it's like camp and it's not good, and then camp it is good, and her camp is good.
Yeah, I think what she does is she really has chosen something specific and consistent within itself. So like, and in a way that you're like, oh, she's playing a character. The character and the character she's playing has her own worldview, and it's every time she pops up, she's like a little bit like the Joker in some ways. Like she's always giggling and and kind of crazy, and she has that appeal of the Joker in some ways. The thing that I caught was like they shot one of the helmsmen at the and if they're all changelings, like changelings have a real strong thing where you don't harm another changeling. So, changelings don't harm changelings. It was a big thing about it.
She shot a bunch of them this episode.
the two people in the Daystrom were not changelings.
Oh, okay.
So,
and I want to jump in and say, Paul, I love your Joker analogy. I think a lot of times when you talk about villains, especially in sci-fi, you've got your typical kind of comedic sci-fi villain. And then you've got more of your thriller horror sci-fi villain, right? And the Joker is interesting because when you think about the evolutions of the Joker throughout all of Batman, they vary, right? Like Jack Nicholson Joker was probably a little bit more comedic, even though it was dark, whereas Heath Ledger Batman was a little bit more thriller horror, right?
He's just ahead of the curve. I'm just ahead of the curve.
So what I think impressed me about Vedic in this is that there's a thin line to keep it like to the tone without it being just too comical, right? Because she hit all the tropes, right? If one more of you tells me what I already know, I'm gonna kill you, right? And then someone keeps talking and she kills him, right? Like
she's a goo of her word.
Right.
Chippy says, I wonder, I don't think all the changelings can return to OR form. Vedic calls her crew ill-defined, unshapen. Maybe there's something important about that. That is something to consider.
Well, I don't think that her crew is actually changelings. I think they're more like
that's what I was wondering. The henchman vibes.
Yes, they do. They give off deep henchman vibes. And when we saw the changelings before, they were the it's slipping my mind now. The spiky head people.
There you go, Clyde. Jemadar.
The Jemadar, yes, thank you. The Jemadar.
Spiky head people taking the Federation by storm.
It was right on the tip.
Says Terry has said they are changelings, apparently.
Okay. All right.
And Phil also brings up it's weird that Vedic and her crew are always in solid form in the privacy of their own ship. But I wonder, like, what is the relaxed version of a changeling, if not in a solid form?
Well, a leisure suit, maybe
it's a goo. Yeah, that's it's a goo. But like the changelings never have to do anything because they usually have henchmen to do it, like the Jemadar or the Vorta. So
that was funny. You guys missed my joke. You said, "What is the relaxed form of a changeling?" Sweatpants. They had sweatpants. They're hanging out.
No. I did you a mitzvah, Clyde. I did you.
Moving on from Vedic, who I am enjoying this season and this episode especially. I'm so glad we finally got to see her off of the ship, even just for a moment before we're right back to it. But we get the big kind of reunion at the transporter deck. Geordi LaForge comes on board. Worf is on board. But of these reunions, which I thought all of those were very nice, I was a little disappointed in the Raffi and Seven interactions. I feel like we got like one small acknowledgement and then a good joke by Worf, and that was it.
It was a great joke by Worf. Actually, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. So how many times have been together and off again? Like,
I mean, they seem to have been like on and then off-ish and then on-ish and now off. But
so how many times is that going to happen where you're going to it's going to be awkward, right?
Right. I think I wanted a private moment between the two of them, and we never got that this episode. I feel like everyone else kind of got a little one-on-one moment with those that they've had tensions with, and they did not get that same opportunity.
I think the thing that I was looking for was the stakes, right?
Yeah.
Because what we're talking about two people who recently were together, and now you're in this moment, you're fighting together, understanding that basically the fate of the world is at stake, right? Like you might not make it. Like there may not be a tomorrow. So this might be your last opportunity to just be like, hey, I just want to check in. Like a lot's been going on. Like I almost died. You almost died. You okay? Like there's just a moment, and I didn't feel like we got any of that. It's just like
I have a hot break.
Yeah, I'm good.
Hot frag attack, go.
I believe that Seven and Raffi should not be together. They should never be together. She is like way too dedicated and emotionally unavailable. Seven.
Sorry, Paul.
Not cool.
I will not live for this Seven and Raffi slander.
Disrespect. No. But like, I mean, like, if you just break it down, neither of them are capable of really.
But isn't that why they should be together?
I'm just saying,
they found love in a hopeless place, Paul.
This is
to quote the beautiful Rihanna.
I'm just saying, I'm taking off my glasses as I'm making the point. There wasn't gonna be a happy ending for those two. It just wasn't gonna happen. That they're just too similar.
Ooh, that's interesting. I was actually thinking they're too dissimilar, right? Like Seven is focused and Raffi is all over the place. So maybe that's why they work. But I also could see it driving Seven absolutely nuts.
For me, I look at Seven, and granted, I haven't seen her for 30 years, so there's been some growth since Voyager, but she still seems to be like an emotionally repressed, somewhat angry person.
You're going to say that after we got that beautiful monologue about Voyager this episode?
Oh, because she goes like, "Oh, I used to live there." Because of that,
I mean, I thought you were going to get kicked out of the show again. So,
and I like Rob. I just don't think that I even enjoy watching them together. I don't think as people, if they were my friends, I would go, "Hey, you guys are bad for each other, right?" That's the hot freak. I preface this, right? I preface
I
it.
know. I know.
Um,
I will let that be entertained for now until we're given
that's
better
some
situation.
that's some Emperor Giorgio vibe, Captain.
You're welcome.
Here's what I heard. I'll tell you what I heard in that exchange. Clyde, be ready to do the show with just me and you. That's what I heard.
It's more like, no, Terry, Metalis, I need some more romance, or not even romance. I just need some queer rep in the Picard canon right now, because it's slim pickings. Slim pickings.
I mean, you're right. There's almost no romance in this show right now.
No, there's not.
Well,
there's
a little bit.
Riker,
I saw a little bit between Jack and Crash. There was
Yeah,
a little bit of like.
I wanted to talk about this. That trio, I really enjoyed this episode. Jack, Sydney, and Alondra. I found them to be a really fun little grouping. I love Alondra's like, let's reset the phasers here. Everyone is trying to be like, Jack, we see you. We see your charming Picardy ways. We hear your charming accent. You can't get this, sister. You know, you're not going to get my sister, Sydney. But yeah, I found the three of them really fun. I wish we got to see them like La Crush.
Love it. Love it.
The La Crush has started. But I wish we got to see their hijinks. There was like moments this episode where I was like, oh, I want to tag along on their adventure more than some of the stuff I'm seeing on screen.
I was thinking, if that's the kernel of a spinoff, sign me up.
Yeah. 100%. I was like, oh, if we have like Seven and Rafi and Jack and the LaForge sisters, and then we get some fun like guest star moments from our next gen while we're watching the next gen, it's going to be a good time.
Ooh, Star Trek, the next gen.
I think he's already said he wants to call it Star Trek Legacy, but I don't think he's checked that was already the name of the video game. Is what Terry Metalis has said.
I'm telling you, next gen.
Next gen. I did want to talk about, I thought it was really cute to see Shaw fanboy out on Geordi LaForge. And so I wanted to ask y'all if you've ever had a big fanboy moment where you are similar to Shaw, where you're just like, hi, I'm going to stumble over my words because I really appreciate you.
Interesting. Let me think about this.
I have not. I like to pride myself not getting like starstruck. However, LeVar Burton might do it. Like, especially if I was caught unprepared. It's different if you're going somewhere and you're expecting to see him, right? But I had a friend once, and we were at a Whole Foods in Connecticut. And we turned around and Tracy Ellis Ross was standing next to us, right? And she's a huge Tracy Ellis Ross fan. And she was like, you're you. And I had never seen her act like that. So I would imagine if I was standing somewhere at like a Home Depot, right? Or a Target, and I turn around, right? And LeVar Burton is there, buying a hammer or something, I might get caught off guard and lose it for a second. Might happen.
Yeah. At Star Trek Day, I managed to take a picture with Michelle Hurd, and then she was like, did you want to take a picture with Jerry? And we turned around and there was Jerry Ryan, but she was like about to walk off, and I was like, and I just short-circuited and nothing happened.
Like for me, like I saw a movie with Bob Picardo, and so like we were at a party, and he brought Captain Janeway.
Oh my god!
And he introduced, and I was like, "Hi,
hello, Kate Mulgrew."
Hi.
Short circuits.
That's right. Hi.
That would be tough. I mean, I think Kate might throw me a little bit. To be honest.
Yeah, like she's very lovely. She's very lovely.
I have no doubt about it. But I mean, it's the gravitas in which she walks.
I for some reason, I think I would do better with Jean-Luc or even Kirk, But for some reason, it was just so unexpected. And like, oh, by the way, I brought my friend.
I brought my friend.
So,
Um,
I think
Just a casual. I brought my friend.
I feel like I've seen so much of Patrick Stewart in things. I don't know that I'd be like, I'd stumble. And definitely Shatner, fortunately, unfortunately, is the butt of too many jokes. I don't think so. But I will tell you, Kate and Cisco.
Oh yeah,
it's something about those theater actors that walk in with
sure. Like they walk in with a dignity.
Yes,
like a distinguishedness.
Like, and if he just came in and was like, I might short circuit a minute and be like, no words would come out. It'd just be, yeah.
Well, we all have our fan person moments, and hopefully we'll get to have more of them soon. Let's go ahead and dig into our adventure onto the Daystrom station, where I cannot believe we did not have peanut hamper time.
Every
but
week.
I do know why. Peanut hamper is technically stored at the Daystrom Institute, and this was the Daystrom station.
Not the black site.
But I was really sad. I was really sad.
Very well done. Again, didn't see it coming.
How did you not see that coming? That was I've been tweeting peanut hamper memes all day.
I thought we were going to talk about Moriarty and the Crow and that. So no, I was preoccupied. And again,
we'll get
I'm
to
very
that.
tired.
I did want to talk about, before we get to Moriarty, the list of things that they encounter as they're sort of walking through this X-Files-esque sort of museum of haunted things of Star Trek past. So we have the Genesis machine device, from Wrath of Khan. There's Kirk's remains, which means that they went and dug them up and put them in there.
They need to dig them up, right? Because they did, because Picard buried him.
Picard buried him, yeah.
That's right.
So they dug up Kirk's remains, and then we have the genetically altered tribbles, yeah.
Which look horrific. They look horrific, and really, if you let that thing out, it would be terrible, because they eat, they breathe, they eat. It'd be
destruction.
It'd be over.
The fact that exists is now going to forever live in the back of my mind of what is the most terrifying thing that could take over a planet? It's a genetically altered tribble.
Yeah, I mean, like a attack tribble. Oh my god! I was going when Riker was making a joke about it. I go you're not understanding the gravitas of this situation.
Yeah, I was like, that reaction from Worf was warranted. And then, so we do get the big reveal that Moriarty is not the key to the whole system, but is instead a hologram that Data/B4/Lol/Lore/Alan Soong unleashes once he realizes.
It's not even Moriarty. It's just a
hollow memory of Moriarty.
Exactly. So I was like,
that did seem like a toss in a little bit.
It took me a while. When I watched it the second time, I go why is he even doing this? Why the bird? Why the song? Why the Moriarty? And I go, oh, because he saw Riker, and he goes is this Riker or is this a changeling? And only Riker would know these. Only Riker would be able to put those together.
It's a changeling test. That's a good call, Paul.
That's a great call, Paul. Yeah.
I didn't come up with it. It just took me two episodes to realize it.
I know, but I hadn't put those dots together either. I was just oh, that's a weird security feature.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it seem a lot better than where I was at. And I was just like, this is random. This is another just pull, a nostalgic. I mean, the next thing you know, you're gonna have Minuet in there. So
yeah.
Exactly, but that makes much more sense. Thanks, Paul. It's great. Insight.
Am I back on next episode? Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows? I got out of the penalty box.
Stay nice, Paul.
Yes, I would watch the Rafi 7 comments, and you should be okay.
But I do feel like they picked Moriarty for the trailer.
Yeah.
So it could have been so many other things, but like but I think the trailer made it so that because like the trailer Moriarty is really well, no, I still see how it's associated with Data, but like it's just it was for a trailer, and I accept that, but like but I feel a little cheated because Moriarty isn't coming back. It was a throwaway, right?
Yeah.
So just a little cheated. It's okay, but like
it's probably for the best with only 10 episodes that we are eliminating the possibilities of like,
Sure.
we're focusing in our details here, which I appreciate. Speaking of which, so we get the Data before Law Lore Alan Soong conglomerate into one synth body. What did y'all think of their decision to make him the supercomputer of Daystrom, and then 2, how they have once again figured out a way to bring Data back from the dead?
I'll say this. So to answer your first question, if you're limited and you have that option to go, hey, what super technological thing should we do that ultimately is going to destroy the entire universe? Let's definitely hook up our security and supercomputer to the best piece of AI that existed and combine that with a failed AI, the kind of personality, soul of a genius, and the memories and personality of a psychopath. That is, I mean, this is Terminator. Like, that's a truly stupid idea, but I can understand how somebody was like, yeah, let's do this. This would make a lot of sense. What would a Star Trek show be without Brent Spiner? I mean, at this point, I'm expecting him to be in every season, every like series at some point.
I feel like it made sense for that for that synth to exist because of Alan Soong and like how all of that kind of went down. To me, that made sense as far as like the Soong characterization and like what he probably would have done as a scientist. What I don't think makes sense is having that be your supercomputer. I feel like if it was, we plugged him in and he somehow has access to everything, sure. But it being the end all be all to me was like a little iffy in my brain.
If you had taken out Lore, maybe. Right, but this is
like if I could just turn off your camera, Clyde. Boop,
I know.
I don't have no. Listen, I don't have that
Paul,
button.
I know you like Lore. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is, I dare I say it, it is like Peanut Hamper, right? And the idea is interesting character, but you don't hook a villain into your black site security system. Like at the end of the day, Lore is a villain. You want to isolate Lore and not let him have access to anything. The security of a black site, that's a dumb idea.
Queuing us, do you think they'll kill Data again on screen? I don't think so. But my question, which is the same as PW Gregory's, is why wouldn't you take Data instead of Picard's body?
Oh, I have a theory on this.
Please, why do you think they've taken Picard's body? Okay, we're going to jump right to the end, y'all. So if you haven't watched the episode, I don't know why you're listening or watching this, but hopefully you now know the thing that they stole was Picard's remains.
Here are the breadcrumbs that I've seen throughout the I've seen them talk about Picard's positronic body.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that like synth body, blah blah. They talk about we see the changeling, the new changelings able to be different,
fully,
and we see a change of behavior in the changelings.
Correct.
In a way that so like in my mind, like I feel like the changelings have found a way to infect people and like take over their bodies and whatever, or merge with them in some way. and that's why you have this new ability to do all this stuff. As such, because like of Picard's aromatic syndrome, like he has an overclocked brain, as like, you know, as they said in in what you call it,
in 10 Forward, when Jack finds out he has the same
like in
syndrome,
in Guyon's bars, you know. And so I wonder if like because of his overclocked brain, you know, whatever is affecting, if my theory of like changeling interaction is correct, like that's in making Jack immune to that, and they need Picard's, you know, DNA with aromatic syndrome in order to combat Jack's overclockedness, so that maybe like you know, the changeling that has infected Jack is like the king changeling or queen changeling or whatever, or regal or whatever. So that's why it's so important for them to get this Jack back.
So you're thinking that it's the Picard's remains are the antidote.
Like they need to go look. They need to go look at his remains to decipher his aromatic. I call it aromatic syndrome. It's not that, but like, you know,
aromatic syndrome.
Yeah. So
I also agree.
That's my hot take. That's my hot take. It's a theory.
Yeah, I agree with Cheapy. I don't think it's as straightforward as Jack's as Crusher thinks it is, with like what's going on with him through the scan. I do wonder, you know, with the brain, I guess they still don't have scans as to like why they can't figure out if they're a changeling without cutting into people yet. And then Anon again, they took Locutus. We are going to see a Borg changeling link. They've been dropping hints all season, just my opinion.
That's I'm curious about.
Same.
Like yeah, you're right. They've been definitely dropping hints all season. I'm curious if this is a Borg connection. And then that would be interesting. I mean, Myrriah, my thoughts, like I've watched this episode twice, and the whole idea that they took Picard's remains didn't really land with me either time. And so what I'm trying to do is give benefit of the doubt and say,
yeah,
because we talked about this last season too. It was like, all right, we're gonna get there. I'm really, really expecting that there's gonna be a big payoff. I'm hoping that there's a big payoff this time around, right? So let's see. And you know, we don't have that many episodes, so hopefully we'll get there soon.
Yeah, I've been having a good time with the episodes thus far, so I'm going to trust that this reveal is going to pay off in a larger way than just like a random changeling has like a vendetta against Picard and decided to steal his body. And like, what does this all have to do with Frontier Day? And there's been a lot of talk of legacy. You know, there's the Soong monologue that we got this episode. We had the Picard monologue at the top. And so, you know, I think it was important that
don't forget about the other reveal. We've got everybody together, including Deanna.
Yeah. So everyone's together. But Shaw points out that when Picard's like, well, yes, we did something bad as Starfleet, but we also delivered the antidote, right? When from if folks remember from or don't remember from Deep Space Nine, there was a big plot through line where the Section 31, right, developed essentially a virus that infected the changelings, and then Starfleet then also provided the antidote. But Shaw pointed out that it didn't, you know, even though they did all those things, you still made some zealots in the process, right? Which I have to say is probably one of the first points. And what I think I've been missing a bit this season is my favorite Star Trek is Star Trek that's commenting on what's happening in our current environment, right? It's taking what's sort of happening and processing it through the world of sci-fi. And I feel like we haven't had a lot of that this season. It's been very focused on like the world that was already established in Next Generation a bit. And so that line was one of the first indicators where I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And this is a little bit of a reach, but it's just been on my brain. It's the anniversary of the Iraq War, of the start of the Iraq War. And so it's interesting to me to have this commentary about like, if you view Starfleet, you know, as like the United
Navy.
States and freedom and Navy and all these things. And then you have Shaw who's pointing out like, yeah, they can represent all these things, but you're also going to create enemies when you make these big mistakes, right? And not even mistakes, like purposeful acts that are harming people along the way.
I think what you're saying though, like, is basically you are now the biggest Shaw fan. Great.
I've liked Shaw for a while now,
yeah,
Paul.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying, like, I'm a big Shaw fan, and we know that Clyde has feelings.
Listen, I actually like Shaw more in this episode than any other episode, to be honest with you.
Any other episode?
Because he got to be your voice as a fan of Geordi LaForge.
What it is he had zero jerky moments in this episode, right? Like, he wasn't throwing anybody under the bus. He wasn't spiteful. He wasn't like, he actually was a starship captain where he's asking questions. He had a little fanboy moment that I understood, right? But he, everything he did was in line with what you kind of expect somebody to be. So I actually liked Shaw. And then to your point, Myrriah, and he made these comments that I thought were accurate. Like I guess the issue for me is he does a really good job of taking the shine off of the make-believe, right? Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because when you go back to the late 80s, 90s Trek, we looked at it as this perfect space western kind of science show where these cowboys are great. And from day one, Shaw has been bringing it to a much more 2020s, like, pull that shine off. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you what's really happening. Like, you can't do this stuff. You can't ride into town on a horse and shoot people and it'd be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if they were wearing a black hat, you can't do that. And so I think for me, I'm gonna say
it. Wait. Let me just okay, Clyde, you can go now.
I might have been reacting to the fact that he was doing it to my heroes. And I feel better, and it makes more sense when that snark is aimed at something outside of the lovable characters that I like. So when he aimed it at Starfleet as a whole, I kind of was like, he ain't wrong.
So what I'm hearing, Clyde, is you say you were absolutely wrong about Shaw. You see the light. He's now, it's Shaw, Peanut Hamper, Picard.
Listen,
which is okay. I'm really proud of you, Clyde. You're a good man. You're a brave man. You're a strong man. I want you to know that.
He is somewhere between my least favorite and second least favorite captain. I mean, it's hard to figure out who's on the bottom, but he might not be on the bottom. He might not be on the bottom.
I know.
And I would say who's on the bottom, but then Chupi and Marge would get mad at me, and I don't need that smoke.
Yeah, we're good.
DeSoto.
Let's move on to another question, which Chupi brings up that she specifically says they will bring changelings unity, rest, and silence. This group isn't just a bunch of rebels. Chupi thinks they can't link, which could be a very interesting. Ooh. Perhaps they need Borg technology to link back to the great link.
If you combine my theory with Chupi's theory, like, mm-hmm. the cost of of like inhabiting a solid body is they're unable to link. That's interesting. That's really interesting, Chupi. I like that.
Super interesting. The other big reveal, you mentioned it early, Clyde, was that Troy has been captured, potentially Troy. There is always the potential that it is changeling Troy, but I feel like at this late in the game, I don't think it could be a changeling. Do you know what I mean? Especially because we got that big speech at the top from Vedic about, let's find every contact that Picard has ever had and let's go after them, So I feel like she's definitely space pirate enough to be like, we're going to be taking some prisoners of war here.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, if we know that changelings struggle, like their kryptonite, if you will, is their ability to know the details of a person's like past. The last thing you want to do is to impersonate somebody's spouse.
Right.
That is going to get unraveled way too fast.
Yeah.
Like he's going to be like, whoa, you know, he's going to call you a pet name and you're not going to respond in the way you normally respond. And that charade will be over fast. So no, I think this is actually the real
Troy.
Do you still call her Counselor Troy or no?
I don't remember what her highest rank was before.
Lieutenant Commander, wasn't it?
Well, yes, she's definitely Lieutenant Commander. Yeah.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Commander Troy.
Like speaking of rank, did anyone notice that it's Commodore LaForge?
Yes.
So basically, he's higher ranked than Riker.
Yeah.
Because Riker's only a captain.
Yeah. But below Picard still, right?
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting.
Does anyone know what Commander or Commodore means? Like Admiral basically means you are over many ships or more than one ship.
Yeah, like I think Commodore. Like I remember in an old Star Trek episode where the Commodore was kind of like
It's apparently between captain and rear admiral and Navy talk, but so I would assume between captain and admiral.
But basically, like this Commodore had jurisdiction over the Enterprise if like Kirk couldn't do something within like 24 hours, and this is where like Spock and McCoy were like stuck on a planet, and Kirk was searching for them, and the Commodore said, "You gotta go now," and because he outranked them and blah blah blah. Anyway, so there you go. Maybe the ship museum got him the extra bump.
Potential. Speaking of the ship museum, I thought we could go through the ships that were included. Sure. So we had the New Jersey 1975, which apparently is named for Terry Metallis's place of birth. And then we have the Defiant, which I found to be a nice little nod to Worf and the OG war. What did the
Dominion War?
Dominion. I was like, not the Defiant War, the Dominion War. I got stuck on D words. And then we had, I thought, a really interesting moment where Jack fanboys out over Kirk's Enterprise, and kind of, I find it interesting that Jack has such an admiration for Kirk, and yet such a disdain for Starfleet in a way.
And it's a different Starfleet though. Like back then, like it was like Cowboy Starfleet, much more like what Jack does, as opposed to rules and regulations Starfleet, which what Picard did, as opposed to near fascist, which is now.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because I would agree with you, but according to your boy Shaw, Picard is just as cowboy. Literally, he called him a cowboy, a cowboy as Kirk. Well, but I do think that we looked at Picard much more as by the book.
Yeah, I think the way that I would see it is like Picard would see Kirk as a rogue. Shaw sees Picard as a rogue. So Shaw, by cumulative, what was that distributive property? Shaw would think like Kirk with an anarchist.
Maybe.
I would like to hear Shaw's opinions about Kirk at some point. But yeah, and then we get, I think, one of my favorite moments, which is a very lovely Seven sort of reminisce about her time on Voyager, and some beautiful, nicely new rendered shots of of my favorite ship. And I really enjoyed that. So thank you for that. I enjoyed my fan service. I got it. You gave it to me. I took it. I ate it all up. Num 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 num
num num num num. That's right. What's the Voyager's class? What's it called? It's called Intrepid class, right?
Intrepid class, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, of course, we get the title ship of this episode, which is the Bounty, which I thought that was a very clever way for them to grab that little piece of technology.
We are just gonna always references damn whales, aren't we?
Whales, they're always coming, baby. Peanut Hamper and the Whales will live forever.
That, you know what? When you guys start a band, that's going to be the name.
Peanut Hamper and the Whales.
Peanut Hamper and the Whales.
If I ever get to go to a convention or a con or something, and there's a karaoke or a like a trivia night, that's the name of my trivia team.
Love it. Peanut Hamper of the Whales.
The Whales,
yes.
Yeah.
I was curious though, like, you know, so like the Klingon Empire just leaves them that ship for, you know,
well, it sank to the
years?
bottom, and then it was like cloaked, so they couldn't find it. And then apparently, you know, it is sitting outside of the Federation's headquarters in San Francisco.
Well, I mean,
so,
but that, I feel like that's, you know, it's like if the U.S. found like the HMS.
But the Klingons are part of the Federation now. Right.
That's not a true statement.
Nope, that's not a true statement.
I don't believe it's true. Like, you know, like the Romulans are gone, but like the Empire is the Empire, right?
That's true.
And for Worf to say superior Klingon technology, I thought that was hilarious.
That was good.
I'm with Cheapy. Finders keepers.
There you go.
Oh no! Oh, there's my big discussion point for the episode, y'all. All right, so the remains in there, and this brings up, you know, especially because yes, you are correct that the Klingons are not a part of that. I don't know why that came out of my mouth, and now I feel dumb. That they're not a part of the Federation. I've just been watching Worf. I'm like, what do you mean they're not? They're right there. Anyway, so I think it's interesting, especially because Picard's also super into archaeology. I feel some type of way about these places that are holding on to technology, artifacts, and things that are not theirs. Like, I think it's so weird that these places have the remains of captains stored in these facilities. Like, it's very strange. I find it strange when I go to museums and they also have remains from other cultures, and I'm just like, give it back.
Like, I feel that, you know, I don't expect them to have all captains. I think like just iconic captains for some reason, you know, I don't know why, because they want to clone Kirk eventually or Picard. I don't know. But as far as like the stuff that they've taken, like, you know, that we saw, right? We saw the Genesis device.
Yeah, those things are all fine because those are like weapons of mass destruction or like things that they have instilled, created. But it goes back to the point of why did they have that Klingon ship and it wasn't like returned?
Like that's what I was thinking. Like, you know, like I'm thinking like you look at the Defiance, going like, does it still have that Romulan cloaking device? I don't know. I hope not.
So I guess, Myrriah, I see your point, and I have a similar point in that all of these things are dangerous, and you have them in places where you're begging someone,
like they're all contained in one place.
Well, not even just that. So if you look at it, like one,
like the Horcruxes.
You say, oh yes, you say, you're like, oh look, it's
Starfleet Horcruxes.
Yes.
Sorry.
You say, look, it's the Genesis device. No, this thing is a terrible thing. You should not have it anywhere. It should be destroyed.
What? I mean,
forever.
Why? It's just it makes life
and destroys a planet. Why would you have an attack Tribble? The Tribble episode is one of the most horrifying episodes in all of Star Trek canon. Like, you assume that, for instance, Moriarty's gunshot was just a little bit left, hit that Tribble, that attacked Tribble glass, broke. Now your entire Daystrom station is a hot mess. I
guess if there's only one Tribble, it can't reproduce, right? But it's still
it absolutely can. All you need is one.
It's born pregnant. It's born pregnant, and if you eat, it eats a little, it makes 6.
So,
gremlin theories.
No, that's canon.
Yeah, I know.
But also, if you think about, Myrriah, what you talked about before is like this bird of prey, right? So yes, we saw Jack steal a cloaking device, but you mean to tell me that no one before this could have done that? You were asking for this to happen, right? Mm-hmm. I'm with you on the fact that some of this stuff is dangerous technology. And to your question about museums, I'm much more into replicates, right? Like have a replicate of something. If the idea is learning, then I don't know that I have to see the actual real thing to be able to learn about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I can go on forever. I did my undergrad in art history, so I have a lot of opinions about museums and exhibitions and where artifacts end up, because hashtag colonialism really fucked up a lot of shit, for lack of a better term. So it's like,
Facts.
you could have all of that stuff could go back, and there are things called traveling exhibits. I've been to plenty of them. They're delightful.
Mhm.
The people who act that culture that is a part of still have that object. It is theirs and it lives with them, and they take care of it and get to decide who gets to see it and when. What a concept.
It's like the scene in the first Black Panther movie.
Oh yeah.
Where Killmonger's in the museum. He's like, don't worry, I'm gonna take it off your hands for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, looking at that and kind of tracing that back. Yeah, I'm with you, Myrriah. Like, I think traveling exhibits are great. I think I just, yeah, I'm with you. Anyway, we could go on forever.
Yeah. It could also be in a book. Reading Rainbow. Okay.
Hologram. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Yes.
So I feel like we have not discussed the best line in the episode, which is Riker saying, "Excellent use of the word burgle."
That was actually, I did think that was the best line, until he looked at Worf in the transport and said, "We're all gonna die."
Yeah.
That, I thought, was
Riker had some fun one-liners this episode.
Yeah.
This is a good Riker.
And here's what I liked about the burgle line. There were two pieces. So one, it was Riker saying it, and then it was Shaw.
Exactly, the reaction to Shaw. You're like yeah.
That sealed it for me. Like, Shaw's reaction, I was like, yeah, that guy's growing on me a little bit.
He's one of the gang now.
Yeah.
It was some good Riker lines. We got to see Riker get beat up and questioning, really delivering it to us. We had some pew-pews. We had some space battle action. This really gave us quite a lot. I did think it was interesting, and I think someone brought it up in the chat. We've kind of been using the same sets over and over again these last almost the entire season, really. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that means we get some really extravagant stuff happening in this back half, because we saved the budget.
Yeah, no.
Or the whole budget went paying all these guest actors to come on.
I know we're just talking
money
about,
well spent. Money well spent.
Yeah.
I think March sums up, I think, what my feelings were about this whole cloaking device.
Yeah, Geordi was irresponsible for leaving the cloaking device on that ship.
Like,
fair.
The truth is, why did you leave it intact? What you?
But I would say this though, like, if all the ships are like functional, like say like the Battlestar Galactica,
yeah,
like whether it be like a phaser bank or like photon torpedoes or whatever, like it's all like starships are dangerous. So like the fact that it's a cloaking device, the only reason why I mention it for a cloaking device is because it's the only Federation, the two legally owned Federation, cloaking device.
So here's the deal. So there's a battle. Like, I've been to, I think it's the USS Intrepid in New York, and there's another one in San Diego. I've walked through these museums, right? So this is a actual battleship that's decommissioned and is set up so that you can walk through it and understand what it's like to be on a battleship. You know what they don't have on these battleships? Live munitions. Okay.
But I bet those boats could still I was about to say fly, and I was like, that's not the wrong world.
Yes.
You could still drive those boats. They could still sail. That's the word I'm looking for.
Maybe. But so I'm not saying you take the warbird or the bird of prey apart, right? But the cloaking device should not be connected.
Maybe it's an integral part of the power system to the
Clyde,
ship.
If they are, they just took it. So if it was, then that thing should have blown up.
Like, all I know is like you need to reset your phasers, buddy.
I mean, maybe it wouldn't blow up; it just turns off, and maybe they like to keep the power on for these tours.
Yeah, like this is not a true like. I I'm with you guys. I'm just messing around. Like, you know,
No,
I'm just being attack dribble.
I feel like this episode is a lot like the show itself. There are lots of parts. I don't know that we've strung a consistent theme from beginning to end, but
absolutely not. Yeah, I feel like at the end of this episode, I'm really just like, I need to know more about why they took Picard's body. I don't think Jack is cured. I'm excited everybody's on screen. I'm ready for more Worf one-liners, and I'm 100% ready for the 7 Rafi Jack LaForge sister spinoff.
No, I'm really excited about like finding the big bad of this season. You know, like who's the risk guy?
Who's
like,
the floating blobhead that's giving all the orders?
Yeah. You know, and you know,
I think it's a Pac-Led to quote.
Oh, you're gonna play that? That's a dangerous thing for you to play.
No. I mean, I think we all know who the true floating head is.
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, it's Peanut Hamper is the big bad forever and ever and always. Anything else y'all wanted to talk about in this episode?
I think we just need to get to watch the next one. Like, I'm just super excited.
I'm excited,
especially if it's gonna be a super cameo. Like, you know, that Rolarian cameo, like, you know, that episode like knocked me out. It knocked me out. So like, if they have something like that again, OMG,
I'm ready. Phaser's set to stunning. Let's do it.
That's right, exactly. Phaser's is stunning indeed. Because I'm anyway. Let's do it.
All right, Clyde. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Yep, that is it for us this evening. I think our brains are ready to power down quicker than a cloaking device on a stolen ship. Thank you all so much for joining us on the podcast this week. We really appreciate you tuning in live or listening to the audio podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week to talk about the 7th episode of Picard. You can visit and find all of our links at StarTrekPod.co for our Twitter and where to subscribe, review, Patreon, all that good stuff. Thanks, Karen, for helping us with the Twitter. We appreciate you so much, and I appreciate all the Peanut Hamper memes you made for me today. They were great. And we will see you all next time. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.